So we are at my house. I just picked up a little birch tree from the nursery.
This is my new baby. Here are its cute little buds and its cute little barks. Some girls collect cats, but I collect trees. Can't blame it on quarantine. I was born this way.
What is up again, YouTube? I am back for another week of a plant of the day, and this week we are covering the birch tree. I even went to a plant nursery and bought a birch tree for this very occasion. Is there much more room in my yard for all the trees and shrubs and plants that I've already bought? Not really. But that is a personal problem of my own.
Birch trees have been around for almost 50,000 years, which is actually not that long if you consider the timeline of many plants. It is a deciduous tree with many uses, both artistically, medicine-wise, and for building things out of. It is found widely across Europe and in North America. Birch is related to alder and hornbeam trees, as they are both in the Betulaceae, the birch family, and betula means beloved. Birch is indeed beloved across the northern hemisphere, and it symbolizes femininity, birth, and renewal. Birches are water-loving, short-lived trees who put nutrients back in the soil. Like me, they're here for a good time and not a long time. In Mandarin, birch bark is called hua mu pi, and it's used in much of the same way that Western medicine uses it. We consider birch bark to be a diuretic, trust me on this one, and reduce inflammation and treat infections. It has betulin, which is a detoxifier, and salicylates that is what aspirin is made from, which also willow bark has, and a lot of wonderful smelling essential oils and actually a lot of sugars. Yes, you can make a birch syrup much like a maple syrup, and you can even extract the xylitol, sugar alcohol, from it and make a delicious gum like this. Hooray! For real though, this gum actually slaps. Here is something I've always wanted to try, getting hit by my friends at a beautiful Russian banya spa. Who wants to go? Oh, when you're harvesting birch bark to make medicine out of, please only take the dead parts so that you don't kill the tree. Here I am showing off my latest online purchase. This birch bark came from Croatia. Here I am pouring hot water over it. Wow, that's a lot of hot water. I hope I don't spill it. We're using the French press. Ooh, look at that pour over. I waited like 3 minutes for it to brew, of course. And here I am trying it. This is my first birch bark tea. Do I look like the kombucha girl? I'm not sure how I feel about the flavor, but I'm gonna drink it anyway. It's actually fine.
So I made the birch tea two ways. The first way I made it was I just did a simple herbal infusion. And I poured hot water over it and waited a couple minutes and drank it. And the other way I did it was I just let cold water soak on the birch bark overnight. And that gave me like a completely different kind of tea. That was a lot lighter and a little sweeter. I would really recommend the cold infusion method for the birch. It's funner to do the hot infusions on camera, but they take out more tannins and like bitter principles in the herbs, especially herbal barks. I noticed that the birch tea was quite a diuretic. It made me pee a lot. And I woke up with better skin, like less acne spots. Maybe that's related. I took like 3 cups of it yesterday. I would really only recommend 1 or 2. A potential side effect that I experienced was my voice feels a little dry.
Update, I've been drinking this tea for 3 days now and I feel amazing. Birch is associated with the goddess Yoster, an Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring where we get our holiday Easter. Birch is also responsible for the birth of the letter B. Yes, B in English, the English language, the B movie.
Let's talk about runes. Pretty much every culture around the world had some form of written language, and the Elder Futhark is the Germanic and Scandinavian runes that are an alphabet that's a little different from our own, but it's actually what Old English is derived from. The rune for birch tree is Barcano, depending on what you read. and it literally just looks like a spiky bee. And the Berkano rune is the rune of rebirth and cleansing and renewal and fertility. It's a perfect rune for this time of year, right as winter is ending and we're getting ready for spring. It's regarded as generally a pretty good omen.
Even today, women draw the Berkano rune on their bellies to wish for a safe and healthy pregnancy and baby. And here's a really old runestone somewhere in Northern Europe. Does anyone know what it says? I don't.
This story is called The Wonderful Birch, a Finnish Cinderella story. Once upon a time, a shepherd and his wife were searching the forest around their home for their lost black sheep. An evil witch overheard them and wanted to play a cruel trick, so she turned herself into the wife, and she turned the wife into the black sheep that was missing. Thinking that he had found the black sheep, the husband goes home with the witch lady to their little daughter in their little cottage. The daughter knows something's wrong immediately, because her mother does not seem like her mother, but has a cruel and cold look in her eyes, and the sheep has her mother's eyes. Immediately, the witch mother starts telling the father that they need to slaughter the sheep because it's such a troublemaker, and the father agrees. The little girl Theodora runs to the sheep and cries and whispers in its ear, "Mama, I know it's you. What should I do?" The sheep tells her to not eat the broth or the meat, but to gather the bones together and bury them in the far corner of their property. Theodora is devastated, but does as she's told. Years go by, and the witch mother has another daughter. Her father dies, as he does in all Cinderella stories, and Theodora is left with her cruel witch mother and stepsister, who bully her every day and make her do the worst of the worst menial labor and sleep in the ashes of the hearth, the cinders, if you will. As the years go by, a beautiful birch tree sprouts on the spot that Theodora buried her mother's bones. Theodora goes to the birch tree every day and prays, and starts to hear her mother's voice in the rustling of wind through the leaves. Her mother gives her great comfort, for Theodora has a really difficult life. One day, the king of their land announces a great festival, so as to marry off his son the prince. Not only is Theodora not allowed to go, like her stepsister is, but she is told that if she does not sort 100 pounds of wheat, that they're going to eat her when they come home. Theodora runs to the birch tree crying, "Mother, what should I do? I'm surely going to die like you did." And the birch tree whispers, "Fear not, my child. Simply cut off one of my branches and beat it on the hearth." Theodora does as she's told, and all the wheat kernels float in the air and are magically separated into their husk and seed, and her task is done. But it is too late for Theodora to go to the ball, and she goes and tells the birch tree this. Her mother tells her, "Oh, fear not, my child. Just close your eyes and I'll take care of it." So Theodora closes her eyes and finds herself transformed, wearing a beautiful dress with gorgeous gem-encrusted shoes. She's whisked away on a magical stallion to the castle courtyard. She gets to meet the prince, and he is charmed by her rustic wit and unusual beauty. They dance all night, but Theodora realizes that it's getting so late and she must be home, so she runs away, leaving her shoes behind. The next morning, the prince goes to each house in the land, trying to find his lost love, bringing the shoes on, for size, I guess, because apparently he has facial blindness? Whatever. The witch mother, knowing that the stepdaughter won't fit in the special shoes, casts a spell on the prince to make him think that her daughter is the girl he's looking for. But Theodora quietly slips around the corner and whispers in the prince's ear, "Prince, please don't let them steal my jewelry." And the prince knows that it is her, and is overjoyed. He takes Theodora away on his horse,
But the stepsister tries to get in the way. She's immediately turned into a bridge by the magical Birch Mama.
and they run over her, and they gallop away to the castle where they live happily ever after. The end.
In some versions of The Wonderful Birch, the story goes on and gets even stranger, but we don't have all day. I do recommend you read that some other time. Maybe not to your kids though, it's a wee bit gory.
But then again, I was raised on Grimm's fairy tales, and I turned out just fine. I mean, like, for the most part. Okay guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope you got some good information out of this. Okay, bye!
Beneath you birch with silver bark and boughs so pendulous and fair, the brook falls scattered down the rock, and all is mossy there.